Welcome to Friday, December 5th, 2025. It's TGIF, this day weather podcast brought to you by the Advocates Injury Attorneys. If you've been injured in an accident, don't face it alone. Get an experienced local Wyoming attorney on your side. Free consultations at wyomingadvocates.com or call 307-800-1952. You deserve an advocate. Well, we're going to see wintry weather, especially in the higher elevations today, as evidenced by that neat shot of hoarfrost there in Craig, Colorado after a very cold morning yesterday morning. We're going to see, as we've been discussing over the last several days, the mountains really getting it. In fact, Grand Targhee ski area in northwestern Wyoming on the Idaho border picking up at the base of the ski area already a foot overnight and more on the way, as waves of Pacific energy and moisture will be coming in from the northwest and moving southeast. This is going to lead to heavy snow at times in the mountains and over the mountain passes and wind. If you've got to travel over the higher elevations of 70 and 80, be ready for that, and a lot of wind across some of the plains. And as we'll show you in a minute, we're a bit concerned Saturday of very heavy snow squall activity, which could be a concern for travelers in parts of Wyoming and Colorado. We'll show you that here in a moment. Another little surge of northwest flow will bring another round of mountain snow, probably as we get into Monday. And then we're going to see kind of a backdoor cold front that could bring the northern Rockies and northern plains some snow as we get into the middle of the week. Now, beyond the middle of next week, our confidence in the forecast is very low. This is where I got to warn you, just completely ignore any 10-day forecast because we have a shifting pattern. That polar vortex is getting rearranged. And that is just something the models can't handle. You're just going to get wide varieties of solutions. I have solutions that have sub-zero temperatures in about 12 days. I have solutions that have temperatures in the 60s. So we just have to let things sort out. A lot of you probably noticed the moon out last night, bright and huge on that horizon, just perched right on top of that tree there in western New Mexico. Some wave action in the clouds near Douglas, and you can see the fresh snow in the bighorns and the clouds increasing, ready for the next batch of winter weather, which is commencing. That moon just put on a light show last night. You could read a book from it in many areas yesterday evening if the clouds weren't in your area. Speaking of clouds, increasing late in the day yesterday over the Mosquito Range. They're queued up to get some snow this weekend as well. Beautiful shot after that snowstorm went down the I-25 corridor, gracing the Pikes Peak area with just a idyllic scene there. Boy, that could be on a Christmas card. The satellite loop this morning, wanted to put this in motion for you so you could really see the channel of moisture that's coming around the very strong jet stream winds and then coming into the Pacific Northwest. This is an area of cold air and moisture and instability that's getting fed into the flow. So we've got a high pressure ridge here, strong gradient coming around. So you can see it on the water vapor loop of what is coming and heading southeast. This little wave right here was responsible for that foot of snow at the base of Grand Targhee overnight and early this morning, and the mountains of Wyoming and northern Colorado overnight and early this morning getting a good shot of snow. That's just the first salvo. When we look at the 500 millibar chart, that little area I showed you on the satellite imagery right here is that upper level low coming in. And it's really going to be this guy which is going to initiate the real heavy snow, widespread snow, as we get into late today, tonight, and into the morning and mid-afternoon hours of Saturday as it comes through. This is just a classic setup for the mountains of Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado, and eastern Idaho to really see a lot of snow. One thing that we do watch is something called vorticity. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds here, but this identifies areas of the atmosphere that have a natural spin to it and a natural lift. And you always have weather out ahead of it. So here's the wave that's coming through right now. And you see these colors? These colors represent these pockets of instability and lift. And you can see how they're all lined up. So we have this system coming through today combined with the very strong northwest winds aloft, all just queued up and taking aim on the central Rockies. And by tomorrow morning, it gets stretched out a little bit, but all of this energy is in the flow, coming in to the same area. And that's why the next 36 hours, it's going to get at it in the mountains, and this is by Sunday morning. there is a little bit of a break you can see. So what we're likely going to have is the snow easing up in the high country during the day, Sunday into Sunday morning, although it will continue in many areas. But we've got another little wave right here that'll send some moisture. Will probably bring some high country snow on Monday. So these are the precipitation totals through Monday afternoon. And it's basically just like what I've been showing you all week, with the mountain ranges picking up some overrunning snows for the Dakotas and for Montana and southern Canada there. Notice we've got these little fingers of precipitation coming off the mountains right here. Now, it doesn't look like a lot, and it won't be a lot. However, when we have this moisture instability like this, you can have snow showers breaking off the mountains. And this is something that you've got to watch for if traveling, especially the Interstate 80 corridor and maybe even sections of I-25, as you get snow squalls, where you can get very heavy snowfall that happens for a brief period of time, but can cause whiteout conditions. What I'm showing you right here is something that we show you in the summer, which is called CAPE, where it shows where the atmosphere is unstable. By late morning and early afternoon tomorrow, you see these little patches of blue. Again, it doesn't look like much, but those little patches of blue are where you could see heavier snow showers come off the mountains and across the plains. So you can see Interstate 80, that's where they may pop up. And we've seen this before. You drive and the sun's out, then you hit zero visibility, heavy snow for 10 minutes, roads are awful, then you drive out of it, then the sun comes back out. That could very well happen, so we've got to watch that. So if I expand that same image, and this is where you can get caught in heavy snow squalls in the central and northern mountains of Colorado as well. This is something to watch out for tomorrow if out and about. Again, it's not organized. It's not where everybody gets it. Joe down the road might get a heavy snow squall. A mile from you, you might not see anything. It'll be that type of pattern. So when we put it all together with snowfall, you can see the mountains doing good. Then further out into the plains and the colder air, there's more snow for you guys there. As we get into Monday, there's that next wave, kind of the last wave in the action. So another little round of snow for the higher elevations. But notice how the polar vortex is getting stretched out. The core of the cold air over Hudson Bay here gets a little more diffuse and westerly flow comes in. So there is going to be a mild period for the central and western United States because Pacific air floods the zone, because the vortex, instead of going north-south, is stretched east-west, and the wind flow around it will follow it. So there's going to be a warming trend for a good portion of next week, especially for the first half of the week, although one thing we need to watch is this little wave right here, as it could bring more snow to Montana, northern Wyoming, and the Dakotas around Wednesday. So that's something midweek we've got to keep an eye on for areas along and east of the divide. Then when we get into Friday of next week, so a week from today, we're seeing things changing up here a little bit. We may or may not have a strong trough off the coast of British Columbia wanting to come in. I say may because we're into that realm where all of the activity going up here in the higher latitudes rather, is going through a readjustment phase. And so when you go through this readjustment phase, there's just too much for the models to handle, and you get a wide variety of different solutions. However, what is likely going to happen after a week from today, after this readjustment in the polar vortex, is the weather will change and will be very active again. But it's just a matter of where that activity is going to be centered on. If you take a look at the northern hemisphere, pretend you're in space and you're looking straight down on the North Pole, which would be right here. So here's North America, here's the Eastern Pacific, and then you can find Africa to kind of get your bearings, Siberia over here. So this is where we are as of the initialization of the model. The polar vortex, we have got two of them over here, and you've got the cold core here, more north-south as you can see it directed here. But as we step forward over time, what I want you to notice is the shape changes. It kind of looks like a big amoeba. So this is where we are now. This is by next weekend. So you can see how things change. They change a lot. There's a redistribution of where the troughs, where the high pressure ridges are going to be. And you see this finger right here. this is probably a good example of the model not really being able to handle the changes. That's why a week out is a bit of a problem. We go 2 weeks out, things start to get rearranged a little bit, and we start to see this establishment of this high up into the Gulf of Alaska here. We've got to watch that. That may or may not form. But what we're saying here is that after we go through the next 5 to 7 days, we'll have plenty to talk about and how this readjustment in the northern hemisphere changes. And as we mentioned early this week, there's another stratospheric warming event queuing up that's going to be happening mid-month. Don't forget our regional travel forecast. This is especially true if you have to travel today, tomorrow, or Sunday, especially Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and eastern Idaho and northern Utah. Have yourself a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.